All right. Welcome to episode 12 of the For My Dawgs podcast. I got my dog Johnny here with me as always, and I'm going to pitch it over to him to introduce our special guest for the day.
What is up, everybody? Today, we have the one and only king of the river, over the hand, Mr. Universe, Ayoola. How we doing?
Wow,
Man,
what
I'm
an
good.
intro.
Thank
Dude.
you for the wow.
Dude, he is the king of the river. And so, sorry, Grandma, I'm still saved, but I do play poker sometimes. And when I do that, Ayoola always wins right at the end. Not at the beginning, but right at the end. He always wins.
Hey, I just believe in the heart of the cards, you know?
It's a
Like
whole lot.
that fifth turn, it's what I
Dude,
do.
You have no idea that you're winning, though. You're just gonna you just hope that you are, and then you eventually win.
I'm looking at is that a flush? That's a
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not even looking at your own cards. But for those you don't know, Ayoola, he went to the famous. I'm wearing a ECU sweatshirt for him. The famous ECU, go Pirates, right?
Go Pirates.
Yes,
Mhm.
He was at grad school with my wife Claire, and I told Claire, I said, I'm sorry, he's gonna be more my friend than your friend, and it's been history ever since there.
Yeah. He's also
that's
an
awesome.
incredible pool player, I found out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That one night we
Look.
all went and hung out in Charlotte.
Look, you're just setting me up. You're just building me
I
up,
know.
and I love it. My
Mhm.
brothers, you're building me up, and then the rest of the podcast is just gonna be me tearing myself down. So I love it.
Oh no, hey, that's
Yeah.
called being vulnerable, right? That's what a guy's supposed to do.
That's what this is all about. That's
There
what
we
it's
go.
all about.
Humility,
That's why we're here.
Humility. I love it. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Tucker, hate to say this, but Ayoola, he is a Gator fan.
Hey, I can actually talk trash this year, which I don't get to do often when it comes to the Florida matchup. So, hey, two
Yeah.
out of the last three.
We can't have it all, you know.
What every
You know,
Florida fan says.
Yeah. Hey, look, but see, I was born in the swamp. You know what I'm saying? So I just it's in my blood. So don't hold it against me.
Hey,
Oh,
hey,
never.
Georgia's playing Florida this weekend, so super pumped for
Mhm.
that. I got my
Hey, and
Hobie dry goods hat right here, just in case you're worrying. I'm not wearing it. It's behind me. And maybe Ayoola, you need to get a Hobie dry goods Florida hat.
I don't know if they
Yeah,
have
I
Florida.
should.
We need
I'll
to
get
check.
it. I'll get it by next week.
Well, there you go. There we go. Pre-order it.
Yeah.
Somebody commented on one of our videos and said they liked the hats, and they went on and looked for an Alabama one. They didn't have it, and I was like, I actually kind of love that they don't have
Yeah.
Alabama.
Hey, and Bama, like lights out to Missouri, which I know that you and I in the beginning they were in our top 5, well, who we thought would be good, but they're not good. I think the hype is over with them.
Yeah, I mean their quarterback got hurt again, didn't he?
Oh, did
In
he
that
really?
game?
I was
I think
watching the
think
score. I
so.
wasn't keeping up with the details.
Yeah.
But then A&M pulled out, so now A&M is the undefeated in the conference, which I kind of want LSU to win. Sorry to anybody who's an A&M fan, but I just didn't want the cult of A&M to winning. But they did, so good for them.
Yeah, I like their coach. I like Mike Elko a lot. And I think that the A&M Texas game is starting to look more and more interesting.
What do you think of the Texas Vandy game?
Hey, yeah, I mean, it's this year in college football. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but it's just so hard to tell who the cream of the crop is, like who the best teams are.
Right.
Because I feel like it's so up and down. Like Texas looked horrible against Georgia, and Georgia, no offense, Johnny, hasn't looked the best in the games before that. And I'm
saying that.
Tennessee hasn't looked the best either. So I'm not trying to like throw Georgia under the bus.
You are, but it's fine. We'll move on.
I'm not. Okay. Well, you can take it that way if you want. But all the good teams like seem to be having bad games. Like even like Bama played bad against us and then turned around and shut out Missouri. And then like LSU played really good against who was it? Ole Miss, and then Arkansas, and then just completely imploded in the second half against A&M. And so it's like, I don't know. It's like all the top 10 teams. It's hard to tell. Miami's had so many close games. I mean,
yeah, but Miami doesn't deserve their title. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they're talking about his quarterback getting the Heisman, and I was like, if Miami's quarterback or even Colorado, they're talking about him getting Heisman too, and I was like, oh my gosh, the only person that I actually think should get Heisman is the Boise State running back. He is a beast.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I got family in Boise State, so that blue field, I've been on it. It's an incredible field. It's a better blue than the Gators, Ayoola. Just saying.
I think that field is top one ugliest fields in college football.
Their orange is kind of faded on the field. I wonder how long it's been since they've replaced the turf. It looks more yellow than orange.
No idea. Yeah, I'm sure that's where all that college tuition goes to that field to keep it blue.
Is the Florida Georgia game, is that still in Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's always in Jacksonville.
Thing.
Now it's incredible. They pack out that stadium. The only weird part, well, not only, but like sometimes Georgia's home, and I was like, we're not home. We're dry. Like Florida is always gonna has the least amount of travel. But Kirby Smart has been trying to fight for it because we're like losing, revenue in the school because we're not having it there. But I mean, hey, they pack it out each time. And listen, I'm like Florida is a team that they can have lost. They could have lost every game up until we play them, and I would still be nervous to play Florida.
Yeah, because that's how I was when we played them. Because it doesn't matter if they have a really bad year; they always play us tough. It does not matter.
I have cousins in Florida, and they've been texting me every time Georgia shows a little bit of weakness, and so I cannot wait. I'm just going to text them back a smiley face when Georgia stomps on them. I'm not even going to say anything, just a smiley face. Just be like, "What's up now? I'm not hearing from you anymore."
So you do admit that Georgia has some weaknesses?
No, I do not. That was fake news.
I heard.
Yeah, that was fake.
I heard
it sounded like you said that.
I think that was AI actually talking for me. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, Florida's got this freshman quarterback now. Maybe a whole different team.
Hey, so fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Did they have a bye this week too?
Yes. Georgia and Florida always have a bye before they play each other.
Mm-hmm.
Traditions.
Yeah. How about Auburn beating Kentucky, huh?
Okay, I'm loosening my grip on them. I will say that I'm loosening, and I said that we were watching the game. We were watching it with an Auburn fan last night, and I told him, I was like, dude, I was hyping up Kentucky, and I don't know if maybe my hype was valid, but hey, I mean that's Missouri and Kentucky that I'm both wrong on, so I'm not gonna make any bets anymore.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you never know in preseason.
But we're going to the game this weekend.
We are. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm gonna wait.
Night game.
Yeah.
Neyland at night. We'll hopefully get to experience that. I'm pretty sure we'll wear the blackout uniforms. That'll be hype.
We, as in you and your team, not me. Just to clarify.
Yeah, but you're going, and you're gonna.
I am going.
You're gonna wear hopefully a black shirt.
Yeah, I can do that.
I'm not gonna make you wear orange.
I can do that.
But
I promise I wouldn't wear anything Georgia.
Don't wear Kentucky colors. Or Georgia.
Yeah,
don't do that either.
I won't.
Okay. Yeah. So,
but if Kentucky starts doing good, I'm going to be a little excited. I'll be pulling for Tennessee that game, but I'll be a little excited if Kentucky starts pulling off.
Yeah, and then I'll be like, all right, Johnny, you can go home.
That's what you get for bringing a Georgia fan to a Tennessee game. But we're good. But hey, we have the man, Mr. Universe. I say Mr. Universe because this dude is swole as all get out. Ayoola.
That's actually a fact.
He could probably go in and start playing D1 college football right now if he wanted to.
Dude, I would have loved to play football growing up. I feel like I miss out so much. My mom was like, hey, you can play any sport you want, but not football because concussions. And I was like,
I've had 4.
Yeah. So. I mean, yeah, but look at you. You're doing fine.
That's why you can't say your words,
Like, it worked out.
Yeah, actually,
it worked out.
Yeah. No, dude. Having 4 concussions is not good. Yeah, it's not a good thing. So your mom was doing a good job. My mom, sorry, mom, you're listening. Maybe you should have sheltered me a little bit, but yeah.
Or maybe you should have just not used your head.
Actually, 2 of them were from football. The other 2 were not from football. So that was just, one was from, I got booked off a horse. Another one was I wanted to be like Dude Perfect, and it didn't work out.
Okay. We got enough time for that story or no?
I tried to do a slam. I tried to do a slam dunk on a 10-foot ladder, and when I jumped the ladder, moved, and my head landed on the concrete. So, yeah. Long story short, don't remember it. That's what everyone tells me that happened.
Okay.
Wow. Yes. Hey, dude, but Ayoola, you are now, you got your career. Your mom,
It's true.
your mom saved you from that, from not doing football, and led you to this path you're on right now, right?
Shout out my dudes.
Shout out
Yep.
to mom. There you go. And you are an occupational therapist. Before we even get into that, can you please clarify to our listeners that is not PT?
It's not PT, and it's not just job therapy.
Right.
Johnny is well versed, and he could tell you, but you could. You're
no,
very
but
good at
I'm
it.
gonna let you do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So you hear the word occupations, right? You think work, job. Okay. So then like you have a 65-year-old person in the hospital and they're like, I don't work. What do I need therapy for? But occupations really just, they're talking about the things that occupy your time. So your day to day, watching football, being on this podcast,
There you go.
Making a cup of coffee, just all the things that are meaningful, in your day to day life. We kind of help problem solve how to keep you independent and functioning in those things when you have a health condition, either acutely or chronically. And yeah, just kind of help preserve that quality of life. So that's what I do in a nutshell. I'm not PT. Love my PTs. We work hand in hand like this. But they're the movement specialists and I'm the everything else. So
yeah, but you weren't always OT. So if you could, a little background, because you had another job before that, and then
true.
And then you left that. You went to the great UNC too.
Tar.
Heels, there you go.
Heels,
yeah.
So I'm obligated to boo.
Yeah, I know.
My wife went to state, so boo.
I mean, state is just the middle child, the middle child, or the
See, she's gonna hear this.
I know. That's why I said tread lightly, Ayoola.
That's okay. Hey, nah, go Pack. Go Pack.
Yeah, hey, it's a good red and black. But yeah, so you did that. You went to UNC, then you went to ECU. You and I had many of conversations and just hung out, which is why I was wanting to bring you on the podcast for a long time now. And now you're in your career. So if you could just, give a background of what led you to become an OT.
Yeah. So, I feel like just a phrase or a concept that has kind of followed me through this journey is just like life is not linear. So like your trajectory in life is also not linear. So, coming out of high school, I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. I'm not going to do that. I have 2 Nigerian parents. And if you know anything about having an African parent, you're going to school to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, one of the 3. And
oh my gosh.
that just, I was like, I don't really want to be a doctor, but I played sports. I kind of like the medical field, so I'm going to be a physical therapist. So I went through all of undergrad thinking that's what I was going to do. Got to graduation or close to graduation. I was like, oops, I don't have all of the classes I need. And I'm just kind of not ready to go back to school yet. So, my dad, he works in education, and education's always been something, near and dear to my heart. Kind of like you, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
So, I did a stint of 2 years as a college advisor with the Carolina Advising Corps. And basically it's kind of like a Teach for America job deal where you're going into an underserved, underrepresented area where, college going isn't the norm, and you're honestly just walking through life with kids who are just really wanting to figure out what they want to do in life, whether that's going to a 4-year school, going to a trade school, just going out and working. Yeah, just really being there for them. And so I had a couple students and they were part of the EC program, so exceptional children. So these are kids who have like learning disabilities or developmental disabilities or something like that. And they would come into my office and they say, hey, John, you like WWE? And I'd be like, yeah, of course I do. Come in here. Let's talk. And so I quickly just, grew to love these kids, and they would just come in and they would tell me about their hopes and dreams. And some of them would say, hey, I want to go to school, but this teacher said that, I can't go to school. Mm-hmm. It's completely false. It's just,
yeah, that's messed up.
Like I said, their trajectory, their course may look a little bit different. They may need some more support. Yep. So that kind of, left a bad taste in my mouth. So I wanted to look more into what resources this population was lacking within the school system. And that's kind of how I found occupational therapy, and how, there was a huge portion of EC children in the county, but a high turnover of occupational therapists. So went, did my shadowing, applied to East Carolina, got in, and yeah, the rest is history.
Dude, right on. I didn't know that's how you became wanted to EC, like going to OT. Gosh, I could not get that sentence out.
It's okay.
Yeah, thanks. But because you found a need. That's really cool. I did not know that was how you found that.
Yeah, man. And it's interesting because I'm not working in the school system right now. So, but there's always time for that, and I still do have a soft spot for education. So I may end up in the school system. We may end up at the same school one day.
Hey, let me know, man. Let me know.
Dude, that'd be pretty fun. That'd be pretty fun.
No, it's funny you say that, because the OT at my school, when he like first met me, he was like, "Hey, man, people don't normally like me. I'm the OT," and I said, "Dude, you come to the right person, because I love OTs. Like, my wife's an OT, and I have a lot of good friends who are OTs. So trust me, you can always come to my classroom. You'll be fine." But yeah, I do see the OTs, like the guy who's an OT. I mean, he's going every other school in the county, and he can't be there every day.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's hearing you talk, like it sounds like to do that role, specifically with, I guess, the story you were sharing about those students, like as a occupational therapist, you have to operate with a belief that they are capable of doing, like, accomplishing their dreams. And I think like we need to have that belief in one another, and too often we don't have that type of belief in ourselves. And to your point, like, their path to it may just look a little different. And for our listeners that have been with us, they know we use this analogy of like running a race. And it's like, we talk all the time about, like, you got to run your race. The person next to you, their race is probably going to look a little different, but you got to focus on yours and let them run theirs. And I think, we should never tell somebody, try to stifle anything in anyone else. Unless it, maybe sometimes someone well enough to where you can speak in and be like, are you sure that's where you think you need to be going, or the direction you need to go in? And, not tell them they can't, but at least just make them think about it more. But in the scenario you're talking about, like, that's super frustrating.
Yeah, man.
To put people down like that. So yeah, I appreciate the work you do, man. And I think it's cool that the Lord used a passion of yours in education to lead you to a new passion in occupational therapy. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Didn't think that, 2 years ago I'd be stepping into a program where it looked like I was in a sorority. I got really good at doing the little like sorority squat and pictures. No, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, with OT, it's very we're working on making it a little more diverse. I mean, OT is predominantly like a white female dominated field, and I'm not close to that at all, which is cool.
I would say you're pretty far from.
Yeah, I've been inducted as one of the girls, which is an honor. But yeah, I think the other part to, I think why I pursued OT was, I just saw that in the school system there was like not a lot of people that looked like the students, and so when these parents were coming to maybe navigate some hardship with their kids, they would come and talk to me simply just because I looked like them, So I was like, hey, I've been here for 6 months. I don't know anything. Let's go talk to the counselor.
Right.
But there's just something to say for just like having just like unfamiliar information coming from someone that looks like you. And so I think as healthcare as a whole, like, we need to do our best to like get healthcare from, just all sorts of people, because there's just some implicit trust that you can get that you may not be able to get from someone else. And that's just simply because that's how God made you,
Yeah.
So it's been super cool to see, even in my time in the hospital, just, maybe some patients that have been a little problematic, but it's just because they don't feel comfortable, and then I'm able to kind of step in and be able to love on them in a way that they're able to receive it. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to keep going on that. Is, Tucker and I, we both had different jobs before the jobs we have now. And so we at one point we're like, I don't know if I want to do this. We took that chance and we did, and you did the same thing as you took that chance. And now you're in your career. And so let our listeners, these are 3 guys who took a chance to do something that they wanted to try out, something that they love, and they went for it. And now you're in a hospital, and don't want to give out too much details about patients and everything, but to your patients in the hospital, do you see kind of like the mental health side of it on there, and like what do you see with that on there? And also, you as a guy, you're not the norm, just being a guy. And so how do your patients, particularly like male patients, react when you offer them help? Like what is mental health like in the hospital, and how do male patients react to you helping them?
Yeah. So, right, this is like in the hospital. I mean, we're talking like you just had a heart attack, you just had a stroke, you
Right.
just had some acute healthcare thing that's happening. We're trying to get you medically stable. So, they might have had their surgery, maybe they're waiting on surgery, and then I like pop my head in. I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? And obviously they're like, how do you think I'm doing? I'm like, nah, like that's fair.
Yeah.
But we still need to get up,
Right.
for your own good. So, people are definitely, they're down, a lot of the time. Like, I feel like the biggest question and the biggest thing for our profession is like, we want to preserve your independence as a person. And I think independence as people, like that is like kind of what, I don't know, like when we were 5, we're like, man, I can't wait to grow up so that I can do whatever I want. It's like when you lose that sense of autonomy, like your world can kind of spiral. So, sometimes at the beginning of a session, it may not be like asking home setup questions. It may just be like a minute or 2 of just being like, hey, like, how are you? And like really checking in, giving them an opportunity for them to feel heard, especially when all these doctors and nurses are coming in every 5 seconds to like get something from them. It's like, hey, like, let's stop, let's check in. How are you doing? Let them be heard. And
That's
then we
cool.
can kind of continue. So, I think that's kind of my approach for, I guess, my like therapeutic approach. I'll keep rambling, but more specifically
Please do.
with guys, I think with healthcare specifically, I feel like from a guy getting like cared for, it's a lot easier to get cared for from a female. Like, it just kind of makes sense in my mind, I guess, or maybe that's just kind of how we're wired, but it's like, oh, like they're supposed to be nurturing, they're supposed to be caring, like that's how they're wired, that's who they are. But I'm also doing the same thing that a lot of like my female counterparts are doing, and a lot of like men or women are not expecting me to like want to help them get to the bathroom and do a thorough job at wiping their butt. That's like something that's like super important. And so I see it more so from guys, but they're just like so appreciative to me, and they're like, hey man, like you didn't have to like help me at this like very down time where like I'm needing a lot of help, but I'm like, it's my job. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if you'd be saying it the same way if I was a female. But I think that just kind of speaks to a larger thing as to like, I don't think as guys we get a lot of practice or a lot of exposure to just like truly like caring for each other, and like, yeah, like I feel like in an intimate way. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and I just get to see it a lot.
Yeah, I think, or I want to ask you, do you think like guys, when you walk in, are kind of taken back almost because there's this like pride involved where it's like, if I'm going to let you help me, that's a vulnerability.
Yeah.
I'm letting my guard down, my walls down, and admitting I need, like, I feel like it's a tough place. And I was just we went up to Western North Carolina with a group from my church to go help out with the relief efforts. And I was talking to one of the ladies up there, and she was just describing like the people in those communities as that way. Like they're a little proud to ask for help a lot of
Right.
times. But this, natural disaster has kind of forced them to get out of that. And I'm sure that that's where your patients find themselves of like, they don't, especially guys, they don't want to ask for help, but the situation they find themselves in at like forces them into that vulnerability. So I'm sure that puts you in a weird spot. So how do you handle that?
Yeah. Right. I feel like as guys, we all have some level of ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think with something so acutely happening, kind of like what you're saying with like just like the disaster relief, this is like yesterday I was driving and, taking care of my lawn and taking care of my family, then all of a sudden, boom, like all my resources are gone. But like that still doesn't there's a disconnect. There's like a lag between like, oh, like I'm still the independent person that I was yesterday, when like in actuality what we have going on is like you kind of need a little more help. So I think a lot of times I have to kind of show them, hey, we're sitting on the edge of the bed and you're looking at me like this, like you're saying that we want to walk to the bathroom, but it's like, hey, you're needing a lot of help right now, so I
Right.
can't allow you to do that for yourself, because like that's not loving to you, and I'm probably going to lose my job if you end up falling, so let's just not do that. um but yeah, I think once that bridge has kind of been, they're like, oh, like I do need help and I do need this guy's help, when they do realize how much help they need, they're like so receptive to it, and they're like, wow, like I'm just like not used to having like a guy care for me like this. And it's just, I'll never forget, I started work on my birthday week, and it was like a Thursday, and I was orienting with one of my coworkers. So like we have to go through like a 7-week orientation, just get familiarized with
Right.
everywhere. And I'm helping this guy, and he's getting to the bathroom, said he needs to go, and he's really weak. Like he needs a lot of assistance just to stand. So like once he's done, like he can't help wipe himself. So I'm like, okay, like you focus on standing. I'm gonna support you, and I'm just gonna help. And my coworker outside said, "Hey, did you know that it was his birthday today?" And he said, "Oh, really?" He said, "I bet I didn't think you'd be wiping my ass on your birthday. Happy birthday."
Oh, I love that.
And
Yeah.
that was just like, I feel like that's a core memory for me, because it's like, wow, like I've really picked a profession where like I'm in vulnerable places with people, and
Yeah.
like serving them consistently, whether it's about a day about me or not, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's just a fun little story, but I feel like that's indicative of kind of like how my day to day is.
Yeah. Dude, but our last episode, we were talking about how sports can teach lessons, but goodness, everything you just said, you can teach a lesson about that. Like from one, just like, just leaving someone where they're at is not loving them, You're talking about that guy in the bed, or helping them get to their point, having guys be vulnerable because they're too proud to ask. I mean, like everything you just said, we can break that down into a whole life lesson. How we talked about last week with sports, you're doing that on a day-to-day basis. Now you're helping people out. You did that while you were in that last job, and Tucker and I have talked to you before in your living room on breaks with poker. We'll have some philosophy conversations. We're just talking about other ways we can like help people, but like you are always looking to help people out. You are the positive guy, always looking to help, and that's what your like passion is. But how is that heavy on you, and does that put a impact on you? Like, do you go home after helping people out and sit on your couch and just silence? Like if you don't want to share and being vulnerable in that way, how heavy is that on you?
Yeah, I think I'm very much wired to be just like an empath. I think I've just kind
Yeah.
of always been that way. So, like my last job as a college advisor, a lot of times, like we didn't have the bandwidth to, like we had 2 counselors, and so a lot of times kids would just come to me,
Right.
and tell me about like crazy life situations,
Yeah.
like. And I'm like, man, like there's a couple of days I was just like, I have to go home for like I can't keep going on with my day after what
Yeah.
I just heard. So I have the utmost respect for like school counselors, like therapists, because like that level of like getting to know someone and their issues, like, I mean, you just have to have the most, I don't know, solid network to be able to deal with that, or you're just wired to do it. And I can't do that.
Yeah.
But there is a heaviness that does come with my job. I think a level of what we do, because of how fast paced it is, like, I would love to be in a room with a patient for an hour, hour and a half if they need it. But like realistically, I'll be in that room for 20, 30 minutes max. So I think that kind of helps with alleviating some of the heaviness, because there's only a certain amount of time I'm with them. But I think a lot of days I'll get in my car after a long day. What was even my day? Like, I think I don't get a lot of time to reflect or process unless someone asks me. And then when they start asking me, it all just starts coming out. I was like, wow, I didn't know I had all this stuff that I needed to process. So I think it's been very it's been a blessing. One, just like my church community. They're always available, and I have a community group, and 2 of my roommates are in that community group.
Cool.
So I have access to kind of just processing it and talking it out with them. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I read a quote that said guys would rather hurt themselves than burden someone else with what they're going through. And I don't know if you feel that way. I know, like, for Tucker, part of his story, and Tucker, you can share this too. I'm not trying to share your story, but you said, like, when you were in the depths of your depression, you just would just sit in silence rather than share with people. And so do you share with people, Ayoola, or do you hold that in?
I hold it in. And I think it is too, because like, yeah, I don't ever want to feel like I'm a burden on someone, you know? Like, it's one thing to like share with my coworkers, because we're all living the same life here. Like, our lunch breaks, those 30 little minutes are so cathartic to us, because it's like, I don't have to over explain, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. But everyone else, I feel like, yeah, they're not working the jobs we are. So one, it's just like, I don't want to have to put in the extra effort to give you all of the context around why this thing is so heavy. And then on top of that, I don't want to burden you with it. So yeah, I would like to do a better job at not feeling that way, because like when people come to me with their issues, I don't look at it as a burden. And so I feel like I shouldn't be projecting that on someone else, you know?
Yeah. First off, I want to say I love the fact that you said you're an empath, because I feel like stereotypically men aren't viewed as that way. Or like, that's like the joke, is like all men struggle with empathy.
Yeah.
And I do. I mean, my wife has told me that multiple times. Like, I know it's a struggle for me. But what I know about my wife, because she is this way, is everything you're saying, she's the exact same way. And I feel like what it is you care so deeply for other people. You don't ever want to inconvenience anybody. And so you're hyper aware of that. So then when you are going through something, then you like flip it and you're like, well, I don't want to inconvenience, or I don't want to be a burden, or I can just deal with it. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And it's like, you don't allow yourself to experience empathy, because you're always so empathetic to other people. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know that's like, I've seen that play out with my wife, because she's an empath too. And I don't know, like, it's just it's interesting how we do that to ourselves.
Yeah. I'll co-sign everything that she said. Just, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so interesting, like the way we view other people versus the way we view ourselves. And I think it's good we're bringing this up too, because so often our world portrays like a certain view of what men are supposed to be like, or what manhood's supposed to be like. And God just wires people in different ways. Like, I know you are not the only man who is an empath. I think anyone who works in a profession like you or who works in any form of counseling or social work, like they have to have that to do their job well. And so the Lord wires, men that way for a reason. And the rest of us who aren't wired that way, we actually need to do some work to get better in that category.
Yeah.
Like I think all men to a certain extent need to be striving to be more and more of an empath. And I think where we can help one another out is just reminding each other like, hey, yes, we need to be there for other people and feel their pain, sit with them in their pain, help them walk through it. But we also need to be able to receive that help ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, just tying it back in with your job, like your patients, they need your help. They need your assistance. But on the flip side of that, like how can we help you, Johnny, whoever, see like, okay, but you need help too. It may not be on the scale of what your patients are going through, but we all need help to a certain extent. So yeah, I don't know. That just, I thought of that as you were talking. I think it's good that we're bringing that up, bringing that to light.
We're talking also about like before, you're talking about like the community thing, needing that. I don't remember what you were saying, but yeah.
I was gonna ask you, Ayoola. I think like this was what I learned in my journey. Was just the importance of community, having people that know you deeply, that you feel like you could share everything. And to your point with that, you don't have to do a lot of explaining to because they know you so well. And they know that, you talk to them enough to where they know the ins and outs of what you're going through. So like for you, how important is community or social connection just in your approach to your mental health, your job, your day to day?
Yeah. There was definitely a time in my life, I think kind of in the transient in between figuring out, what I was going to do after college advising. And dude, I was just like, I was in what, Eastern North Carolina, and it's just, it's just like field, like it's not a ton.
No.
And then on top of that, like just the population of the community was either like high schoolers, which, outside of work, not hanging out with you.
Right.
Or like a 65-year-old couple, which is like cool, but like, I felt pretty isolated during that time. And I think for me, it was like, I've always been the person who's helping people. Like, so like, I should be good. You know what I'm saying? Like I can thug it out for a bit. And I kind of carried that with me into grad school. And man, like towards the end, I was like, man, like I need people, like as much as I think I'm strong and I'm the person that should be helping everyone else out just because, maybe I've had an easier life or I've had the support. So it's like, I want to pay that forward. Yeah, the life isn't meant to be lived by yourself. So, I've been super blessed to have, y'all and the friends I made in grad school and my community here in Charlotte, to lean on. So, yeah, community's huge.
No, I like that. Like not being like how we're not meant to be isolated, and I joked earlier in this podcast about playing poker, but that was more for me mentally. I needed that than I did, just playing poker because I would lose money, so it wasn't financially good for me. But and also like we would play like poker for like 2 rounds, and then the rest would just be just talking. And man, we've had some deep conversations going on with that. I mean, that led to our buddy Lucas, officiating a wedding, like because of a deep conversation. So like, I mean, it was, like powerful and meaningful conversations happened through that, and I needed that for my soul because at the time the job that I worked at, it was a good job, but I never hung out with those guys after work, and we didn't talk about anything serious, and I needed some guys to talk to. I have my wife; she is my best friend. I love talking to her, but I still need a guy in my life. I need a dog in my life that I can go to, and that's what, like, that was it for me. and so have you found that here in Charlotte now that you moved, and so you still have that here, Ayoola?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my roommates, they're just super intentional. They're a little bit older than me, so they're a little more established. So it's cool to kind of see like what their trajectory's been like, and the fact that we do life with each other, like literally we live with each other, but then also like in the church community, like in the body, we've just been able to have just so many just meaningful conversations about life, emotions, relationship, like you name it. And I think that's the other thing with vulnerability too. It's like not something that comes super easy, right? It might come super easy. Like you got some overshares, but for the most part, I feel like it's something that you have to get reps in, just like in the gym. Like you're not just going to throw up 225 for 15 reps on your first time. Like, you got to start somewhere. And I think I have a really good buddy. And I mean, he talk about an empath. Like he is the most emotional man I've ever met in my life. But with that and with the way that the Lord's wired him, he was like the prime example to me of someone who is vulnerable. Like and to this day, like he'll call me and just tell me what's going on in his life, and he has no questions about whether it's important that he's saying it or not. He's like, yo, you're my friend. You're valuable to me. I value your opinion. Like, let me just open up myself. And it was like, whenever that transaction happens, it makes me want to open up more as well. So I think even just a practice of how do we get more vulnerable with each other, someone just has to take the initiative to be vulnerable, and it'll kind of just be like a domino effect.
No, that's so true.
Amen.
Yeah.
You tell them, Ayoola.
Dude, and also
what we've been trying to say.
And also, let's go back. You probably, to that weight, like lifting analogy, you probably could put up 220s and just rep them out. Just saying.
Look, man, I look stronger than I am. It's like a defense mechanism for nature, like selection, the whatever selection, like they're like, oh man, like he looks really strong, but like not actually. So like don't mess with him because you think he's strong, but like if I do test him, I'll probably win.
Dude, but when we lived in Greenville, I came over to your house, and you have a pretty big living room, but like maybe a foot of the living room has a couch. Like it's a small couch, a small TV, and the rest, Tucker, was a workout room. Like he had in his living room, he had everything there, man. And I was like, oh yeah, now I know why you're freaking swole, because your living room is a weight room.
As Meek Mill, the philosopher Meek Mill said, they told me to marry the game, and I say, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
There we go. Oh my gosh,
shout out to my old roommate Seth. That was all him.
Oh, okay.
He got his big boy job, and he said, I need this for my mental health.
Yeah.
So our place is a gym now. So yeah, I wish I had a picture. If I would have known we were going to talk about it, I would have thrown it up there. But it was literally like you walk through the door, couch, TV, table, gym.
Yeah.
And then there's kitchen right past it.
That's all you need.
Yeah. No excuses, because you're everything you needed right there.
Yeah.
Well, dude, your journey has been amazing, and like I've known you for a few years now, and I'm learning more about it now, which is one thing I love about this podcast, Tucker, is that we like the people that we bring on, we know who they are, right? But then we're learning so much about them, and so what I want to know is, okay, so now you're at this point, Ayoola. If you could look back and you could give some advice to our listeners, and this podcast, women listen to it too, which I think is awesome, but it is kind of geared towards guys. So what could you give our listeners about something that, as a man, that you are, because I mean, dude, you're a dog, Ayoola, you're a man now, So what could you give our listeners? Yeah, there we go. About that you've learned now in your life about what it means to be a man, that you wish you could tell yourself sooner in life. That makes sense?
Yeah. I think for me, yeah, man, like it's okay to go through those emotions, like the emotions that like, maybe a loss or just anything that's really kind of just, moving you off of that baseline of just being like cool, calm, and collected. Like what society is telling you're supposed to be as a man, right? Just like the stoic one, the one that's going to be in control, like driving the boat. I'm the captain now, like that type of thing. Like it's okay. It's okay to like not be that for a bit, you know? Like I think, yeah, I throughout a couple moments in my life with like just relationships and stuff, it's like I had to learn how to like grieve, man, like and really be okay with going through those emotions and not feeling like I needed to just, you know, do it and move on. Like it's okay to like sit with that. I think that is like kind of how you end up being more empathetic, or you know, learn to have healthier coping strategies or things like that. But yeah, you don't have to fake it. And then you
Yeah.
surround yourself right with you know, your community, with your dogs, and then you know, you walk through it together, right? Because it, like you know, not isolation, not good. We don't like that. Doing life together, we love that because we can help each other up. We can build each other up. So, yeah, I think that's what I would tell myself or tell anyone who's listening.
That's a good word, man. And it's so funny to me that we make that like not the norm, because especially as Christians, because I mean, you read the Psalms, and I mean, you talk about the most emotional guy you've ever met. I think
My
David,
goodness.
if you read the Psalms, man, that dude is sitting in some emotions for a long time. But
tearing a lot of clothes too.
Yeah. But David also had this incredible way, and I think this is the key to it, right? He had this incredible way to voice his emotions to God, whether it's through a song he wrote or through a prayer. And almost all of those instances at the end, he'll come back to, but God, you are on the throne. You are good. I know you'll deliver. I know you'll rescue. Like, he has this faith and trust in God. And I think for us, like, Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And he says, take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I think when we learn to sit in our emotions, yes, but sit in them in such a way that we're giving them to Jesus, who is the only one who can handle it. Other people can't always handle the burden and weight of our emotions. Sometimes it's like too much.
Heavy. Yeah, not true.
But Jesus always can. And so when we have a relationship with Jesus, I mean, that's what I'm just learning more and more and more is, you talk about dealing with, you know, your emotions, or you're going through depression, you're going through anxiety, like, gosh, a relationship with Jesus, I don't know how people deal with it outside of that. Truly. I think there's like short-term fixes and things you can do that help, but there's just having a God who cares for you, loves you, knows everything about you, can handle anything you put on him, that you can take whatever you're feeling to. I mean, you can say whatever you want to him, and what you're going to receive back is love and grace and mercy. Like, we don't have that in human interactions and human connection, but that's what we need. We need that, the easy yoke, which is when we put on the way of Jesus. When we look at his life and look at his practices and habits, and we say, we're going to take those on as our own. It's actually it's easy. It's not a burden to do that. And so, yeah, I love that you brought that up, and it made me think back to those passages and just David in the Psalms. But man, if you trust and put your faith in Jesus and you take those emotions to him, you'll find the healing that you're looking for. I truly believe that. It may not happen overnight. It didn't for David, but it did happen for him eventually, and we can have the same hope.
You better preach, Pastor.
Hey, you started it, man. You got me going.
What? I mean, to that point, Ayoola, from when you graduated, to now, how many years was that?
I mean, it's almost been a year, right? December.
Well, no, I mean, college, sorry.
Oh, college. Whew. 2018. So,
6 years?
Going on 7 years, yeah.
And then, Tucker, what about you? What was your years, do you think?
You mean from grad school or?
Yeah. Yes, I say from grad school.
I think I finished in 21. Yeah, because I finished right before I got married.
Yeah. Yeah. And
2021. So 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah. I finished in 2022, but I really didn't know what I was doing and around 2018 too. So I was about 6 years if you count all the way to that. So like to your point, Tucker, and to everything you've been saying, Ayoola, is like also time. Like he said, that doesn't happen overnight. Time in the Bible, people wait, right? So Jesus waited, Moses waited, Noah waited. Like everybody waits, and don't think if to your point, if you don't know what's going on right now, it takes time. And Ayoola, your story is so cool because it shows the time of all of that and the process. And I'm sure it's cool now, but maybe in the middle of it, it was kind of hard for you. So, but dude, I'm very proud of you where you're at. You're killing the game right now. You're doing amazing, and you're being vulnerable, and you're sharing your story. And so I hope that I know the story is going to make an impact on other people's lives. And I would encourage you to share that story more, because that story is cool. You just telling what you're doing is cool. You have and I loved how you said, I was given a lot, and so I want to pass that forward to people. And so just because you maybe you didn't have a hard life growing up, okay, well, I love what you said, Ayoola, is like, well, go help somebody, like help them, if like in their life. Just because you didn't have a hard life doesn't mean you can't help somebody else out. So to our listeners, I hope that you also share your story and share us your story too. We would love to hear it, and be vulnerable with people. Be an empath. Like, men need to be empath. Hashtag men need to be empath. There you go. Yeah, let's get a t-shirt with that.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm proud of you. Thank you so much, Ayoola.
Hey, I appreciate y'all.
Thank
keep it
you.
up.
And yeah. And it's really cool that we got to have this conversation today, because before we even started doing this podcast, we were kind of like running the idea by you in your living room the night we went out to play pool.
Yeah, man.
And we almost had a conversation, not exactly like this, but we pretty much had a podcast then, and it was all sparked about like starting this podcast. Now here we are, 12 episodes into it. We got to have you on, which is pretty awesome.
It started by watching just random football highlights. And
it did.
True.
The Tavon Austin highlight tape, and then Marshawn Lynch, all that good stuff.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And we referenced that night on, it was either our first or second episode, where we were ranking the top 5 ways to hang out with the boys, and we referenced it.
Yeah.
Hey,
now here you are.
Hey man, kicking it with the boys.
Yes, sir.
From kicking it with the boys comes life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hey, amen.
Another hashtag. I love that.
Yeah. Well, hey, before we sign off here, let's get, since you guys' teams are playing each other, let's get some score predictions in the book.
Oh, for Florida
Johnny,
Gators,
Florida Georgia game. What are you thinking?
Like I said earlier, Florida. I'm not going in there cocky at all. Okay, so I'm saying that we're gonna have like my goal, let's say 24-14. So I'm saying I think it's gonna be close.
Okay.
All right. Ayoola, what you say?
I'm just feeling like a 21-17.
You
going? Yeah, going us, of course.
Oh,
yeah,
dang.
absolutely.
Oh, man. Interesting.
Those scores aren't too far off. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's gonna be close.
Yeah. It sounds like y'all are expecting a defensive battle. I don't know. I feel like it would be a little higher scoring than that, but I don't have to give a score prediction because it's not my team. So.
I will say this, Tucker. I predict we will not go to overtime. How about that?
Okay. No overtime.
It's a little shot towards you, but it's okay.
Hey, win's a win.
Hey,
win's a win.
True.
That's exactly what you said when you just barely beat Kentucky. Now look at them. So I can fire right back.
All right, let's end this podcast.
All right. Well, for all of our listeners out there, as always, be like Ayoola. Go be a dog today.
And be like Ayoola and go be there for your dogs.